My name is Amina Rahman. I am 34 years old. 3 months ago, my father looked at me across a dinner table and said a sentence that stayed in the room long after the plates were cleared. He said, "You are useless compared to your brother." He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. Some sentences don't need volume. They land anyway. I remember the light above the table flickering, just slightly, the smell of fried onions still in the air, my mother adjusting her dupatta like she always did when something uncomfortable was said, but never challenged. My brother didn't even look up. He kept eating. That was the moment everything changed, though I didn't understand it yet. I thought that was the worst part. I was wrong. I was the one who thought I had been quietly carrying the family for years, paying bills, fixing problems, covering gaps no one even acknowledged. I thought I was the one holding the truth. I wasn't. Someone else had been holding a much bigger lie, and they had been using me to do it. Before I go further, do me a small favor. Like this video. Tell me in the comments where you're listening from. I always imagine people sitting quietly, just like I was that night, hearing something they've felt but never said out loud. If you've ever been the one who kept everything together while being told you were nothing, stay with me. I know exactly how that feels. Let me take you back a little, because none of this started that night. It never does. It started years earlier, in small moments that didn't seem important at the time. When I was 10, I brought home a drawing from school. My teacher had written "excellent" in red at the top. I remember running into the living room, excited, holding the paper like it was something valuable. My mother glanced at it, smiled briefly, then said, "That's nice, go show your brother." My brother was playing video games. He didn't look at it. That was the first time I felt something small shift inside me. I didn't understand it at the time. I just folded the paper and put it away. That's how it always was. He was the one they talked about, the one they invested in, the one they believed in. I was the one who managed things. Quietly, efficiently, without recognition. By the time I was 25, I had already accepted my role. I worked, I saved, I sent money home every month. Not once did I hear a thank you. Not once did I stop. Because somewhere deep down, I thought maybe one day they would see me. That one day I would matter. That night at dinner, when my father called me useless, something inside me finally stopped waiting. But the real story didn't start there. It started the next morning. I was making tea in my small apartment. The window was open. There was construction noise outside, the kind that never really stops in a city. My phone buzzed. It was a message from my bank. A transaction alert. A large one. Larger than usual. I stared at it for a second. Then I opened my account. That's when the first crack appeared. Money had been transferred from the joint account I had set up for my parents. A lot of it, more than what I usually sent. I didn't panic. Not yet. I told myself there must be a reason. Maybe a medical expense. Maybe something urgent. I called my mother. She picked up on the third ring. I kept my voice calm. "Mum, did you withdraw money yesterday?" There was a pause. Not long, but long enough. "No, Beta, your brother handles all that." That was the first time something felt wrong. Not confusing, not surprising, just wrong. I didn't say anything else. I ended the call politely. Then I sat there, staring at my phone. I didn't understand it at the time, but that was the moment everything began to unravel. Over the next few days, I did something I had never done before. I started looking closely, really closely, at numbers, at patterns, at things I had ignored for years. I pulled statements, months, then years. What I found next, I wasn't ready for. Transfers, regular ones, money going in, and then out. Not to my parents, somewhere else. The amounts were too precise, too consistent. This wasn't random. This was a system. My hands didn't shake. That's the strange part. I felt calm. The kind of calm that comes when something finally makes sense in a way you didn't want it to. I called my brother that evening. He didn't answer. He texted back. Busy. Talk later. He always said that. Busy. That word had protected him for years. But this time, I didn't let it go. I waited. I watched. I kept digging. I contacted the bank. I requested detailed logs. I told them I suspected unauthorized use. I used careful words, professional words, not emotional ones, because emotions don't hold up. Evidence does. 3 days later, I had confirmation. The account had been accessed regularly. By him, withdrawals, transfers, payments, not for bills, not for family, for something else, something hidden. I didn't confront him. Not yet. Because by then, I understood something important. This wasn't just about money. This was about a story my family had been telling for years. A story where he was the successful one, and I was the one who was just there. I wasn't going to argue with that story. I was going to replace it. That was the moment I made a decision. I would not fight this privately. I would not argue in living rooms. I would not beg to be believed. I would do it once, clearly, publicly, where the truth couldn't be ignored. My brother had an event coming up. A charity gala. He was being honored. Of course he was. My parents were proud. They talked about it for weeks. I got an invitation. I almost didn't go. But something told me this was where it needed to happen. The planning phase was quiet, careful. I gathered everything. Statements, records, confirmations. I organized it. Not emotionally, logically, step by step. I even met with a lawyer. Not to attack, but to make sure I was standing on solid ground. I didn't tell anyone, not my friends, not my family, not even myself, fully. I just kept moving forward. The night of the gala arrived faster than I expected. The hall was bright, too bright, the kind of brightness that makes everything look perfect from a distance. People were dressed well, smiling, talking. My brother was at the center of it, confident, relaxed, like nothing in the world could touch him. My mother saw me first. She looked relieved, then worried. "Just behave tonight," she whispered. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because I already knew this wasn't about behavior anymore. It was about truth. When his name was called, everyone clapped. He walked to the stage. He smiled. He started speaking about success, about hard work, about family. That word again, family. That's when I stood up. I didn't rush. I didn't interrupt. I waited until he finished. Then I walked to the stage. Slowly, calmly. Every step felt steady. Like I had already walked this path in my mind 100 times. I took the microphone. I looked at the audience, then at my parents, then at him, and I spoke. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I stated facts. Clear, simple, unavoidable. I explained the account, the transfers, the missing money, the evidence. I explained how for years, the person they called useless had been the one funding everything, and how the person they praised had been taking it. Silence filled the room. Heavy silence. The kind that doesn't move. My brother tried to speak. He couldn't. My mother was crying. My father didn't look at me. That hurt more than anything. But I kept going. Because I wasn't doing it for them anymore. I was doing it for myself. When I finished, I put the microphone down. I didn't wait for a reaction. I didn't need one. Because the truth had already done its job. The aftermath was quiet. People talked. Of course they did. But not to me. Around me. My brother left early. My parents stayed. They didn't speak to me that night. Not one word. The next few weeks were strange. My brother's image collapsed quickly. Investigations started. Questions were asked. Things came out. More than even I had found. My parents took longer. They didn't call at first. Then one day, my mother did. Her voice was different, softer. "Why didn't you tell us earlier?" I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was familiar. I told her the truth. "Because you wouldn't have believed me." There was silence. Then she said something I had waited years to hear. "We were wrong." It didn't fix everything. It didn't erase anything. But it was a start. My father called a week later. He didn't apologize directly. He said, "You did what you had to do." That was his way. I accepted it. Not because it was enough, but because I didn't need more anymore. Long term, things changed. Slowly. My brother moved out. My parents learned to manage their own finances. I stopped sending money. Not out of anger, but out of clarity. Boundaries aren't punishment, they're protection. I visit sometimes. We talk. It's quieter now, more honest, not perfect, but real. And me? I learned something I wish I had understood earlier. Being quiet doesn't make you good. Being useful doesn't make you valued. And waiting doesn't make people change. Sometimes, the only way to be seen is to stop hiding. If you've made it this far with me, I want you to think about something. What are you still tolerating, just to keep the peace? And what would happen if you didn't? Because the truth is, peace built on silence isn't peace, it's just delay. I didn't lose my family that night. I lost a version of it that was never real to begin with. And what I gained was something I had never had before. Myself. Tell me in the comments, what would you have done? And if you're still here,